Thank you, Silvia. Good afternoon. We now begin the first panel called United for Defense, Strengthening Democracy and Europe's Future. The topic of this panel is one that we are all paying attention to as we adjust to the breakneck speed of geopolitical developments. The European Union faces both new and old challengers how to safeguard democracy, especially in the face of the new hybrid threats, to deliver pragmatic policies that ensure our citizens feel secure and to defend the EU. In light of global political shifts, the need for Europe to play a strong, more central role in the defense on the continent has become clear. In this College of Commissioners, President von der Leyen appointed a commissioners from defense from the EPP family, reflecting the importance of the topic and role of the European People's Party in the defense agenda. Our panelists today will shed light on what that EPP FEM vision of the role is and how Europe can stand in solidarity with its partners and hold the shared democratic values underpin the Union and unite its members and partners. I invite our speakers to join me on stage. Please allow me to introduce Ivan Krukol, co-chair of the Euronest, Mikel Serba, MEP, chair of the EPP group in the NATO PA, Mikula Surinda, president of the Wilfried Martens Center for European, and Theodoros Rousopoulos, president of the PACE Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe. Good afternoon. Please sit down. A pleasure. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
Hello,
And your-
Patricia.
Hello.
How are you?
Fine, thank you. And you?
Great, thank you.
Okay. Bueno, let's go to start the first panel. Okay. I just start. My first question is for you, Sarah. As mentioned, the geopolitical landscape is changing rapidly on the global stage. Autocratic leaders are gaining strength. In your opinion, how can the EU move toward effectively counter these trends while at the same time shoring up the protection of the democratic values, such as the rule of law within EPP member states?
So thank you so much for inviting me. We're talking actually about defending our values, but defense in general can be in three dimensions. The classic one, which is make a better army, put a lot of money on it, etc., etc. NATO is involved in that. The second, which is more close to what I represent here today as the President of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe, is, as you mentioned, human rights, rule of law, and democracy. And of course, I would put a third dimension, which is, in my opinion, equally important in our days. And I'm talking about defense from new challenges. There are threats now that we just face for first time. Let's take an example for the one, what happened in Romania with the elections. We had the foreign interference that led the Romanian Supreme Court to annul the elections. So this kind of interference is involving in our everyday life. It is actually putting problems in the political life of the European member states of the Council of Europe or the European Union. And it gives us the opportunity, the ability, but the obligation as well to find new ways of giving solutions. And this is the most important. How can we give solutions? We can go back to the roots, if I may. I just brought a paper. This is only 3.5 sentences here. And I will read you the title, Creation of a European Army. It is, of course, concentrated on the army. And it is written as a motion in 11 August 1950 by Sir Winston Churchill, one of the founding fathers of the Council of Europe. Like what Churchill did at that time, we have to do in new challenges. Just two more sentences. The first is about the Human Rights Convention. It is still there. We are celebrating this year the 75th anniversary, and we have to follow what the Human Rights Convention, which is still for current issues, available to be helpful for us. And the second is other conventions, like the one that we have voted in the Council of Europe the Istanbul Convention, which is actually against violence, which is against women. And now we are preparing 2 more conventions. The one is already voted. The one is about the AI, artificial intelligence, and danger that artificial intelligence put in political life today. And the last one we're talking about is the environment. We are preparing a convention about the environment. You may recall in your mind that it's no more than 2 years ago that the Human Rights Court, the judges of the Human Rights Court have been elected by the assembly that I have the honor to be presiding. They have taken this decision, which is named Klimaseniorinnen, out of women who came from Switzerland and ask for dignity while they are in an age that they cannot protect themselves, and asking for the states to protect people because of all these changes in the environment. So these are the challenges that we face today. In the Council of Europe, we do our best by observing what our member states are doing. The Council of Europe, as the people who are participating here know, is actually the first step if one wants to be a member of the European Union. People are seeking to the Council of Europe for their dignity and for respecting the human rights and democracy.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Krukol, I would like now to move on to a topic which is, of course, greatly impacted by the transatlantic relationship and NATO. As we all know, Russia launched a full-scale brutal war of aggression against Ukraine in 2022. Now, in 2025, the Trump administration has set out to broker peace talks. I don't know, but for Ukraine, what conditions are necessary for meaningful to happen these peace talks?
Thank you. And it is an honor for me to address you today as a co-president of Euronest Parliamentary Assembly and representative of Ukrainian political party Batkivshina. I would like to sincerely thank the entire EPP family and President Weber personally for the leadership you have shown since the first days of Russia's aggression against Ukraine in supporting Ukraine in the defense and financial areas, as well as in advancing the strategic goal of European integration of Ukraine and full membership in the EU. It has been 3 years since Russia launched its full-scale war against Ukraine, and we must build our cooperation in the European Union based on 2 realities: historical and strategic transition to the start of negotiations on Ukraine's full membership in the EU, and the constant threat coming from Russia, who will not lead its aggressive attempts to annex part of the European continent and to weaken and divide the EU as much as possible. In response to your question, I would like to know that no other country in the world wants the war to end as much as Ukraine. And we are certainly grateful to all world leaders who seek a peaceful resolution to this war. The only and key problem is this should not happen exclusively at the expense of the victim and not the aggressor. Over the past few months, Ukraine has repeatedly demonstrated its readiness for peace, including agreeing a full ceasefire proposed by the United States. Instead, Russia rejected its proposal and intensified its terror against civilians. On the night 23rd, 24th April, Russian forces launched 215 missiles, all types, and drones on Ukraine, with main impact falling on Kyiv. And this is just the recent example among hundreds of daily Russian attacks against Ukrainian cities and civilians. But let's be frank, we have never been closer to ceasefire in these years than we are now. Here are 3 key red lines for any peace talks for Ukraine. We will not recognize any temporarily occupied Ukrainian territories as Russian. We will not accept external dictates regarding the structure and number of Ukrainian defense forces. And we will not accept any restrictions on Ukrainian sovereignty, our domestic and foreign policies, including the choice of alliances we would like to join. If a complete ceasefire happens, it will not be because Putin wants it. It will be because he has to. And lasting peace will depend only on all of us, because the Kremlin will use the ceasefire time exclusively to prepare for a new act of aggression. The main conclusion that a united Europe must draw from recent events is to rely on its own strength. This is the reality of today. The EU has demonstrated its ability to act together and in a united manner for the sake of economic growth and improving the living standards of its citizens. The project of United Europe has been successful because EU countries have sacrificed part of their national powers for the sake of joint decision-making at the level of European institutions. Now is the time to do this in the area of defense. I understand how difficult this decision is for many, but it is time to move the idea of creating European defense forces from theory to reality. And together we will not have enough time for this. We need to act as quickly as possible. Ukraine must be an integral part of creation of European security forces. Ukraine, which like no other state in Europe, has a unique experience of successfully waging a modern defense war in which all previous approaches and doctrines have no meaning. Everything that concerns Europe must concern Ukraine, and everything that concerns Ukraine must concern Europe. Long-term peace in Europe is possible only if the aggressor understands that his action will meet such strong common resistance that it will lead to his unconditional defeat. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Surinda, given your extensive leadership experience and in your key role in Slovakia's EU and NATO accession, as the discussion so far, what do you think are the key steps Europe must take now, both in terms of military defense capabilities and to defend democratic values?
Well, first of all, I think that Europe has to acknowledge or to admit that it faces a new coordinated axis of evil: China, Russia, Iran, North Korea. Second, we should be aware of the fact that the pressure of this axis will be twofold: economic, but also military. And number three, if we want to succeed, we need no longer to rely exclusively on the United States and its security umbrella. We have to rely mostly, primarily, on ourselves. We as European citizens, we sometimes are worried or concerned about our well-being, about our prosperity. In these days, our leaders, those in the government, but also those in the non-governmental area, we all should talk to people plainly and to tell them openly that this is not only our prosperity in these days which is at stake, that it is also our way of life, our freedom of individual, our human dignity, which has been endangered. It is important to get the support of people. We in the Martin Center, which is a political think tank of the EPP, we have developed during the last 2 days a project of European defense. The basis of this project is so-called security pyramid. Individual levels of it is moving from strengthening of our armament production capacity with the unified European single market through strengthening of our military mobility, European military model, preparedness for military operations until changes which are needed in our institution, up to effective, very strong nuclear deterrence. The project is very comprehensive. It contains 81 concrete sub-projects. And I am happy that the current Commission is already acting in this direction. We have the first Commissioner for defense and space. We have the European Defense Industry Program for 2025-2027. And we have also the Rearm Europe plan for the upcoming 7 years. Our national leaders do a lot. In Poland, in Germany, and in many other countries, to increase and strengthen our military production capacities, our national armies. Now, the key question, the key task is to implement as many reforms in this direction and as quickly as possible.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. Bueno, Ms. Zebra, your turn. What about your opinions about this panel on defense?
Yes, it's a pleasure to be with you, and it's a high time to discuss the defense. I think that we are in the phase of EU defense awakening, and this is a crucial moment, but action must follow words, and policies will need to be implemented with unprecedented speed and commitment. And so, as you mentioned, the Rearm Europe plan, this is the plan to encourage member states to increase defense spending, and it is a step to the right directions. In Poland, my country is the best example that if you want to spend defense, which we want to spend more on defense, we have to do it. And we can also create a compromise, create a consensus in our countries, and to explain to the people that this is a necessity. So, but also what we need, and we are here in the Congress of EPP, we also need the political leadership to keep focus, to keep momentum, and to realize this is essential for securing Europe, which is free, and protects, as Mr. Prime Minister said, our way of life, the values that we are discussing here in Valencia. So what we have a program. We have the white paper. Where we are prepared also with our projects, but also we need proper financial commitment, and money really matters, and this is also very important. But we have to remember that partnerships and alliances, both of them are very important today. So the EU is now discussing the first agreement with the UK. It is 5 years after the Brexit, and we can still. But there is a hope that during the summit, which is discussed now, we will have agreement on security and defense. We cannot forget, and I said this as a former president of NATO Parliamentary Assembly, we do not forget about NATO. NATO is our pillar of our defense, of our collective defense, and the summit in Hague, which is coming in June, will be very important. Also taking into consideration our political will to spend more on defense.
Okay, thank you. Great. I don't know if we have a few minutes.
One
yes,
minute if I have.
please.
I'd like to share with my colleagues a story which is very important in my opinion. I had the honor to meet a lot of people in my life. I was a journalist in the past before I became a politician. I want to refer to a meeting I had many years ago with Chancellor Helmut Kohl. And this is important because it is now in our interest in nowadays. I told him, what were you doing when the people were not being persuaded by your decisions? He said, listen, I took my decision and I was going on. I had my family, I had my opponents, I had everybody against me. But I was following what I thought it was the good for my people. This is what the EPP is doing. And this is the difference between us and others. We are not following the masses. This is what populists are doing. We are trying to open new roads, and this is something that we should not lose. EPP is the People's Party, it is the Progressive Party. Maybe history is written by all, but the real legacy, political legacy and leadership is only of the few. And I believe that this party is belonging to those who are taking such decisions for the good of the European people. Either it is for defense of our borders, or it is for defense of our civilization. Civilization, dear Patricia, is a child of Athens and Jerusalem, is a child of faith and of reason. This is what we have to support. This is something that matured by the rule of law and democracy, and it is important not to forget.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rosopoulos, Deborah, Ms. Rodinda, Claude. Thank you for your valuable contributions, which are very interesting and helpful, and show what the rapidly changing world and the current turbulent environment where the international order is being disrupted. The future of Europe will depend on our ability to act swiftly and decisively. Thank you very much. Thank you for your opinion. Thank you to the audience. We have now finished the first panel. Silvia, up to you.